welcome to Tarun IAS. Today we will be discussing current affairs of 18th of October 2022. So let's start with the first news of the day. The first news is about Grameen Udyami project. So the news is that Skill India has certified the candidates who were trained under the second phase of the Grameen Udyami project in order to boost the skill development in the tribal communities. So basically, let's see what this Grameen Udyami project is. It is a unique multi-skilling project which is funded by the National Skill Development Corporation. That means the project aims at imparting multi-skills to the tribal youth across the country in 6 states. As for now, this has been piloted in 6 states, and in order to enable them to create a perennial source of income without having to migrate to urban areas. We know that tribal communities consists of approximately 8.6% of the Indian population according to the census 2011. And with the declining conditions of the forest and with different infrastructure and development projects, these tribal youth, they migrate from the tribal areas to the urban areas in search of job. However, they face many challenges in the urban areas. For example, the xenophobia and the cultural threat and other threats like loss of habitation, etc., and their traditional right to the forest resources. Therefore, in order to boost their skills and to enable them to be able to generate their own income, the Government of India had started the Grameen Udyami project, and recently the Skill India has certified candidates who are trained under the second phase of the project. So now let's see which all states are implementing this project. The name of the 6 states are Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh and Jharkhand. And if we see that these are the states in which the tribal population resides, and this scheme is being implemented under the Sansadiya Parishankul Yojana. And the content and the curriculum of the project is so designed so as to include and impart the employability skills, financial and digital literacy, and also the entrepreneurship modules so as to empower them holistically. The training would also include the transportation, boarding and lodging during the training period, and the candidates will not have to spend money on these aspects of the training. And the training under the project, it will be conducted in the job roles which are relevant to the local economy. That means the project has kept in mind the necessities of the local economy, and it has special emphasis, or you can say that it specially focuses on the fisheries, the forest and agricultural roles in order to assist the local demands. The skilling will also be done in the upcoming sectors, for example, the construction, the food processing, healthcare, BFSI and IT-enabled technologies, etc. Let's move on to the second news of the day. The second news is about the participation of INS Tarkash in the 7th edition of the Ipsamar exercise at the Port Guacavera in South Africa, which is also known as the Port Elizabeth. Now, let's talk about the specificities of the INS Tarkash. The first is that it is the state-of-the-art stealth frigate of the Indian Navy, and it is the 5th Talwar class frigate which is constructed for the Indian Navy by the Yantur shipyard in Kaliningrad, Russia. It is equipped with versatile range of weapons and sensors which enables it to tackle or address the threats from 3 dimensions. Currently, the Talwar class warship which are active in Indian Navy is the INS Talwar, INS Trishul, INS Tabar, INS Teg, INS Tarkash, which recently participated, and INS Trikant. Talwar class frigates are basically, they contains the guided missile frigates which are designed and built by Russia, and they are particularly armed with the BrahMos supersonic missile which was designed and developed by DRDO and Moscow. The Talwar frigates, they are basically designed to detect and eliminate enemy submarines and the larger ships. Now let's talk about what Ipsamar is. Now basically Ipsamar countries are Indian Brazil and South Africa, and they jointly participate in the maritime exercise so as to strengthen the maritime relationship amongst them, promote the joint operation, combat the maritime crimes such as piracy, sea piracy, piracy, secure sea lines of communication. That means in order to secure or ensure the rule-based order, enhance the interoperability. Now let's talk about the previous editions of the Ipsamar. It was conducted in the year 2018 in South Africa, and the 5th edition of the Ipsamar was conducted in Goa in 2016. Now we were talking about the Ibsamar, which is Ibsa Maritime Exercise, and now let's see what Ibsa is. Ibsa basically is an acronym for the 3 countries who have formed an informal grouping, which are India, Brazil and South Africa. This is basically a forum that brings together these countries, and this grouping was formalized when the country met in Brasilia in 2003, and they formally signed the declaration, thereby making IBSA a unique formal forum for these 3 countries. Let's move on to the third news of the day. It talks about that the External Affairs Minister has recently rejected the Pakistan's statement on the Kashmir issue at the CICA held in Astana. Astana is in Kazakhstan, and CICA, it is called as the Conference on Interaction and Confidence Building Measures in Asia. Now basically CICA is a multinational forum which aims at strengthening the cooperation towards building peace, security and stability in Asia. Now in order to become the member of CICA, the country must have or should have 1/3 part of its in Asia. It was founded in the year 1992 in Kazakhstan, and the first summit was held in year 2022 with its secretariat located in Almaty. India is one of the founding members of the CICA. Let's talk about the meetings and summit of CICA. It is convened every 4 years in order to conduct consultations, review the progress of and set priorities for the CICA activities. The meetings of the Ministers of Foreign Affairs, in which our External Affairs Minister recently participated, is required to be held every 2 years. Like I said, in order to become the members of CICA, at least a part of its territory in Asia, a member country must have at least a part of its territory in Asia. Currently, CICA has 27 member countries, 9 observer states and 5 international organizations. Let's talk about the fourth news of the day. Russian missile recently attacked on Kyiv, which is the capital city of Ukraine, with kamikaze drones. Now, if we go back to the World War II, we have so far, until now, we know very well the Japanese kamikaze pilots, and they were feared pilots because they were specifically trained to crash their plane. So Japanese kamikaze pilots during World War II, they used to have suicidal attacks on the enemies. Now, keeping in mind such observation, these drones have been named. They have been named after such feared Japanese kamikaze pilots. Now, what are these kamikaze drones which have been used by Russia in order to attack the capital city of Ukraine? Basically, they are the small unmanned aircraft which are packed with explosive, and they explode on hitting the target, just like Japanese kamikaze pilots. The modern drone, they have the ability to surpass the traditional defense in order to strike the enemy, for example, the traditional defense systems such as radar. They hit their target, and the targeting and this whole system is cheaper than their larger counterparts. They are difficult to detect on radar, and they can be programmed to hit the target without human intervention. Now let's see which all countries have such drones. So far, the most advanced kamikaze drones is owned by USA, and there are two variants of kamikaze drones that USA owns. First is the Switchblade 300 and second is the Switchblade 600. The other countries who have some version of kamikaze drones but not as advanced as compared to the USA are Iran, Russia, China, Israel, Turkey, Let's move on to the fifth news of the day. The fifth news talks about the Interpol, because next year Interpol would turn 100 years old, and the 90th General Assembly of Interpol is being held in New Delhi, in which the members from the CBI participated, and CBI is the nodal implementing agency for the Interpol in India. Now let's talk about what this Interpol is. Basically, it's an international criminal police organization that is and has a membership of 194 intergovernmental organization. It is headquartered in Lyon, France, and was formed in the year 1923 as the International Criminal Police Commission, and it started calling itself as Interpol in 1956. India joined Interpol in the year 1949, and it is one of its oldest members. Let's talk about the global goals or global policing goals of Interpol. The first is that it countered terrorism. However, it should be noted that Interpol does not counter state-sponsored terrorism. Though it does counter terrorism, it promotes the border integrity worldwide, and it protects the vulnerable communities. It provides a secure cyberspace for the people and business. It curbs any illicit markets. It supports the environmental security, and it promotes the global integrity. Now let's see what is the Interpol General Assembly, which is being held in New Delhi, the 90th General Assembly in New Delhi. Alright, now basically General Assembly is a supreme governing body of Interpol, which comprises the representatives from all its 194 member countries. It meets annually for its session, and it lasts for approximately 4 days to vote on the activities and policies. Each member country of Interpol is represented by one or more delegates at the assembly, who are typically the chief of law enforcement agencies. For example, CBI in case of India. The assembly also elects the members of the Interpol Executive Committee, the governing body which provides guidance and direction in between the sessions of the assembly. Now we know that the General Assembly is convened annually, and in between the sessions of the assembly we would require a body which will guide the Interpol and which will guide its overall policy throughout the year, and that body is the Executive Committee of the Interpol. Now these are some of the crimes that Interpol deals with. For example, the counter-terrorism, we have an organized and the emerging crime, for example, the cyber crime, and these are some of the important Interpol notices which are issued by Interpol. For example, the red notice implies that it wants a person. That means the person is wanted. The yellow notice implies for the missing person. The blue notice implies that the Interpol would require additional information. The black notice implies unidentified bodies must have been found in any of the member countries. The green notice implies the warnings and the intelligence given by the Interpol to any other implementing agency in any of the member countries of Interpol. The orange notice implies the imminent threat to any of the role of the Interpol, for example, the cyber crime, countering terrorism, and the organized crime. The purple notice is issued for the modus operandi, and the Interpol UN Security Council special notice is issued to the individuals which are subjected to the special sanctions under the United Nations Security Council. Now let's move on to the sixth news of the day. The sixth news talks about that the Finance Minister of India attended the International Monetary and Financial Committee in Washington, D.C. Now let's talk about what this International Monetary and Financial Committee is. Basically, it is the advisory board to the IMF board, which is International Monetary Fund, Board of Governors and Development Committee. It consists of the 24 members who are drawn from a pool of 190 governors of the member states of the International Monetary Fund. Let's talk about the working of the committee. It meets twice a year during spring and annual meetings. The committee has the mandate to discuss the matters which are of common concerns that affects the global economy, and it also seeks to advise the International Monetary Fund on the direction of its work. Let's look at the Development Committee of the International Monetary Fund. Basically, Development Committee is a joint committee that is tasked with advising the Board of the Governors of the IMF and the World Bank on issues which are related to the economic development in emerging and developing countries. The committee has 24 members. So that's it for today. Thank you so much for watching Tarun IS. Have a nice day.